The Earth has held its own funerals, many times. It has buried oceans, continents, entire worlds. It has been burned alive, suffocated, frozen, and yet, every time we think it's over, something new crawls out of the ashes. Maybe the planet doesn't fear death, because it knows it always returns. It remembers every world it's been before. The ones that burned, the ones that froze, the ones that began again. This is not the story of how Earth died. It's the story of how it keeps coming back. The story of the planet that survived its own death. There was a time when the world we know came within a breath of ending. Long before dinosaurs, long before flowers, long before us. 252 million years ago, the Earth convulsed. The crust cracked open in what is now Siberia, and for hundreds of thousands of years, fire spilled from the wounds of the planet. The air filled with poison. The oceans suffocated. 90% of life gone. It was the Permian extinction, the Great Dying. A massacre so complete that the Earth itself seemed to stop breathing. Forests vanished, rivers boiled, coral reefs melted into sand. The sky turned from blue to grey to blood red. And for millions of years afterward, there was silence. But even in silence, life does not forget how to whisper. In the deepest cracks of the ocean floor, microbes endured. They fed on minerals and heat, the breath of the Earth's interior. They were the planet's last pulse, faint but alive. And from that fragile heartbeat, the next world began to form. The planet's death was not a single moment, it was a process. It died, and then it waited. For millions of years, Earth floated like a ghost through its own ruins, wrapped in a haze of carbon and ash. The sunlight that reached it was weak, filtered through a veil of haze. Rain fell, but it was acidic, more cleansing than nourishing. And yet, beneath it all, the survivors rebuilt. Simple cells multiplied. Ferns pushed through soot. Tiny reptiles wandered across barren plains, unaware they were the first of a new age. Life was not returning. It was reinventing. This is how the Earth survives its deaths, not by resisting change, but by becoming something new. The scars of the Great Dying would last for millions of years, but from them, the world would emerge greener, wilder, and more complex than ever before. And from that second birth came the age of monsters, an age we call the Triassic. The Triassic was Earth's proof that resurrection is possible. Volcanoes cooled, the air cleared, rain softened the soil. Forests of conifers and ferns took root where fire had reigned. Oceans, once toxic and dead, filled again with fish and ammonites, the spiral-shelled travelers of ancient seas. On land, new creatures evolved, not copies of the old, but innovations. The first mammals were born, small, furred survivors that hid in the shadows. And walking among them, something new. Upright reptiles, fast and fierce. The first dinosaurs. The planet, once emptied of life, was now teeming with possibility again. But the Earth has a strange rhythm. It creates, it destroys, it pauses, then begins again. Every heartbeat of creation is followed by a breath of chaos. And so, the planet that had already survived one death began walking unknowingly toward another. 66 million years ago, the sky burned again. A rock the size of a mountain fell from space, moving faster than any sound the world had ever known. It struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, And in a single moment, the planet remembered what it meant to die. The impact vaporized oceans. The air ignited. Forests across continents burst into flame. Then came the darkness. Ash and smoke filled the atmosphere, blocking out the sun for years. Temperatures plunged. Plants withered. The food chains collapsed. The age of the dinosaurs, rulers of the Earth for over 160 million years, ended not with a roar, but with a silence deeper than extinction itself. Yet again, the planet waited. In the ashes of a dead world, the seeds of the next began to stir. Small mammals, our distant ancestors, emerged from underground burrows. They scavenged, adapted, and multiplied. And in their tiny eyes, life's defiance glowed once more. Earth had died, but it refused to stay dead. If the planet were conscious, perhaps it would not fear extinction, because it understands that death is not an ending, but a transformation. The Permian extinction gave birth to dinosaurs. The Cretaceous extinction gave birth to us. Every collapse is a reset. Every silence is preparation for the next song. We live on a world that recycles its own tragedies. From fire to ice to flood, the planet keeps writing, erasing, and rewriting its story. Each extinction clears the canvas. Each rebirth paints something unexpected. We are not living in Earth's first life. We are living in its latest chapter. The continents that hold our cities were once ocean floors. The air we breathe was once poison. The stones beneath our feet are the bones of forgotten worlds. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear them. The echoes of all the worlds the Earth has been before. Earth is more than rock and ocean. It is memory. Every grain of sand, every drop of rain, every fossil buried in the dark. They remember. They remember the first sunrise over a lifeless sea. They remember the first leaf, the first wing, the first heartbeat. And they remember the endings. The planet carries the weight of its own funerals. But it also carries the blueprint of rebirth. You can see it in the patterns of nature. How forests regrow after fire. How coral blooms after bleaching. How life insists on coming back, even when it shouldn't. Perhaps Earth doesn't fight extinction because it knows it always survives it. Perhaps it doesn't mourn what's lost because it knows everything lost will return, in a different form, in a different time. The planet doesn't need to be saved. It only needs time to heal, something it has always had more of than we do. They say the planet hums, a low, inaudible vibration, a song too deep for human ears. Scientists call it seismic resonance, but maybe it's something older, a heartbeat that has never stopped, even through every extinction. That hum is the memory of every life form that's ever existed, woven into the planet's sound. And if you could hear it, really hear it, you'd understand. Earth doesn't fear death. It is death and rebirth, endlessly cycling, endlessly dreaming. So when you stand outside and feel the wind across your face, remember, you are breathing the ghosts of worlds that came before. Every breath you take contains atoms forged in stars, in oceans, in the lungs of ancient creatures. You are proof that the planet survived its own death, and that it's still dreaming through you. But listen closely, because somewhere, deep below, the Earth is shifting again. The next chapter is stirring, and just as before, the end will only be the beginning.